Right, we're ready now to start laying this floating floor. So we've got a piece of engineered timber here on our underlay. That's what defines this as a floating floor. The boards are going to be glued together. Now there's a few things to look at straight away. The first run is in place. Now this has been wedged in place with all these wedges at the ends and at the back. That's to hold this board in place, because when we put the second run in, we're going to knock this board onto that one, and we don't want this to move. In particular, we've wedged here behind this joint so that that joint doesn't open. When you put your first run in, it's very important to put the groove at the back. So this is the groove side of the board. This is the tongue. The tongue is on this side. You always knock the tongue to push the groove over the tongue behind it. Now we're ready to put this second row in, and that means putting some glue into this groove. It's important to remember that you always glue into the grooves and not the tongues, okay? So in fact, you turn the board over, the glue goes upside down, and we glue all the way along here onto this bottom edge of the groove. I'll just pass that to Mario, he'll do the rest of the board. Okay, the tongue is down that end, the groove is at this end, and actually I need to glue this as well. So there we are, that's ready to go in. Mario's setting that up with a wedge at that end again. We're leaving a few millimetres gap for expansion. And then we knock the board together, make sure it's tight all the way down. Okay, then we can move down here and measure up for this cut which is going on the end. When you're laying these floors, it's quite important to keep this joint here tight so it looks good. If you just knock these boards together like this, it can be quite difficult to then shunt the board down and tighten it up here. So Mario's just going to show you how to do that, getting it right. So what you do is start with the board at an angle like this, and you just start. Okay, now just before we knock this right home, we have a look, and if there's a gap, we knock it in from that end. Just knock it down a little bit before this gap closes up. Tighten that up, that's it. So this is now tight, and then starting from that end a little bit, we can just knock, working our way down, knock this up. That's it, and this goes in tight. Okay, so we've got 3 runs in now of this floating floor, and really we're going to leave it there. That's enough to get you going. One thing that we haven't mentioned so far is to keep these joints some distance apart. It only looks right if that joint is at least 300 or maybe 400 millimetres away from the next one. Keep your wedges in until you're some way across the floor to keep it stable, stop it moving around as you're knocking one board into the other. Take the wedges out at the end. Now, there's lots of information about this on the website under the installation section, so you can pick it up from here.